welcome into the Big Friday Kickoff podcast. I'm your sports director, Emily Cochran. This is our digital producer, Robert Ristaneo.
That's right.
Robert, we've made it to week 5.
Yep.
Every week I say it. I feel like this season is just flying by faster than any other season we've had before. But I think it's because we're having more fun than we ever have
Heck
before.
Yeah. No, it's been a great season. I think, this past week we learned a lot, particularly about 5A. That was kind of the focus of where we went this week, at least, as far as we're concerned. But yeah, halfway through, it feels like it's flying by, and it's been pretty exciting so far.
Yeah, I think it's been a blast, especially with Big Friday Kickoff, like the locations we've been able to go to each week, getting to go farther and farther and get to go to more of those small town schools.
Sure.
It feels like that are really like their communities are really bought in, and that's been really fun to do so far this season. We got to do that at Citronelle this past week for Big Friday Kickoff, and that was probably one of my favorite Big Friday Kickoff locations to date. And I say that every week because each week we're having such a good time and such a good turnout. But this time we actually got to go and eat barbecue.
Heck yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah,
thanks to Grill Billy's.
Yeah, we had a blast out there with Grill Billy's, and then the head coach, the players, the band, the cheerleaders. It's just, we had such a good turnout. I mean, we really got to highlight the Wildcats school spirit. I mean, their new turf, their field looks incredible. They've got that new Jumbotron.
Right.
I mean, when we got there, Nick was like, this looks like a school out in Texas. It was a lot of fun to be out there and get to highlight those kids for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, speaking of Citronelle Williamson, I don't know if you want to start with that game or if you want to start with our game of the week, Viger UMS.
Let's go ahead and start, since we talked about Citronelle, let's go ahead and start with Citronelle Williamson. We talked about this last week. We knew this was going to be a difficult game for Citronelle. They graduated 20 seniors.
Yep.
And so when you've got that much turnover, it doesn't matter how many kids you have coming up. If you've got a lot of kids that have never started in a varsity game before playing against the number 3 team in 5A in the state in Williamson.
Right.
And I was talking to someone before the game even started that night, and they said that Williamson has the best defense in the state across any classification. We know that Williamson has a ton of talent on both sides of the ball. They were really good last season, and they didn't have a lot of turnover coming into this season. And so this one was it was tough. I did not.
Yeah.
I really wanted to hold out hope that Citronelle was going to be able to go toe-to-toe with them.
Right.
But again, I mean, Citronelle's got a lot of really, really young guys, especially at quarterback. They've got a sophomore at quarterback. And when you have a young quarterback, I think that is just kind of everything can kind of be centered around that. And when you have a lot of young guys that haven't had a ton of experience, everything else kind of falls behind that. So 57-5.
Yes.
Was the final in this one. I hate it for the Wildcats because I love them to death.
Yeah.
But all the love in the world isn't going to get them.
No, it's not. And this was just this was kind of just a get the job done kind of game for Williamson, while also making a statement. I think, we'll talk more about it when we get into Viger and UMS, but it's clearly Viger and Williamson are the top 2 teams in this region, with UMS right behind them, and then I don't know who will be that 4 spot because, as good as Citronelle or as good as Williamson is, Citronelle, that was a tough showing. Some of the stats from this game: 31 carries for 27 yards. Not even a yard a carry on the ground.
They just couldn't get anything going on offense.
Yeah, I mean 4-12 passing for 7 yards. Like that. Now, granted, like you said, that Williamson defense is legit.
Top notch.
Yeah, they've got
best of the best. Guys are going. That's SEC caliber talent.
Yeah, exactly.
D1, not just SEC, D1 across. Just big names in our state, big names across the country when it comes to their talent.
No doubt. And so I think. And offensively, Williamson, 17 carries for 179 yards. You're averaging 10 yards a carry, 3 touchdowns. Alvin Dinkins was awesome in this game, 14-17 for 256 yards, 3 touchdowns. So, Williamson and Viger, that's going to be the game to watch, when they finally play.
Yeah, I can't wait for that one. I think that one is going to be everyone. I don't care where you go to school or who you're a fan of. That is a game to go watch.
Yeah, and back to what you were saying about how many players Citronelle lost from last year's team. this game was 26-28 in overtime last year. And Williamson's team is virtually the same as it was, minus a couple players. And it's 57-5 this year,
So it shows you that, like,
yes,
Citronell's got the exact same, pretty much pieces playing in this game. Williamson, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And Citronell is a completely different team.
Exactly.
With a bunch of young guys that don't have any, experience. So, like, I feel like I can say confidently that Citronell is in a bit of a rebuild.
Right.
Which we've seen Jason Rowell do it. It was a rebuild when he got there. Before he got there, Citronell went 1-9, and then his first year there, they go 6-4, and then last season they go 9-3. So, I mean, it's just you're kind of starting over from scratch. 20 seniors,
right?
That's insane.
Yeah.
So it is a bit of a rebuild. They still could probably make the playoffs this season.
Yeah, I think. We'll see. I think BC Rain is going to be the 4 seed down there.
You're right. You're right.
So now, granted, I mean, we'll see how they play against Williamson. I believe
is that this week?
Yeah, I can pull the schedule up here. I believe that game is this week.
Yep, it is.
Yeah. So we'll see sort of how they do against this Williamson team, but
and that'll help us kind of better gauge where they would stack against Citronell based on how they compete against Williamson. So
Williamson, a very impressive showing in that one. Turning to the other one, we had Viger UMS, which is always a good game. These two teams kind of are always battling for the top spot there in 5A Region 1, and Viger came out on top in this one, 39-26.
Yeah, and I think at one point UMS was up. Maybe?
Yeah, I think they were up at half, I believe. Yeah.
This one was, it stayed relatively close until Viger just kind of ran away with it in the end. And I wasn't really sure what to expect out of this one, but I think UMS looks really good this season. I feel like even with this loss, you have to be proud of how you competed against the number 1 team in 5A in the state. Max Fowler at quarterback, he's a junior. He was 29 of 53 passing, 368 yards. He did have 2 interceptions. But, through 4 games now, he's been exceptional, and he's now in the top 10 in passing in the state.
Right.
And that's, to me, with him in particular, is kind of like a 180 from last season.
100%.
I'm not that he was bad last season. I don't want to say he was bad, but like it's kind of night and day from how he's playing this year.
Yeah, last season I think I may be wrong on the touchdowns, but I know it was like 4 touchdowns and 16 interceptions. For the season.
Yeah. So he's a lot more disciplined. I think that, and that also just comes from experience. You're a junior now. You're an upperclassman. You've had the off season to, develop and work on those things that you needed to work on. You've got a new head coach that's very offensive minded. Clearly, this new chaos on grass that we talk about every week. I think that Viger got a taste of it, and I think that they really. UMS gave them everything they could handle. I think this was a really good game. Our player of the week came out of this game, Viger quarterback Sammy Dunn. He was 21 of 29 passing, 296 yards, 3 touchdowns, just had a heck of a game. I think he really pulled away and shined in the second half. This was a great matchup. Yeah,
and you could tell that this was, in a way, it almost... Fowler had a really good game. He threw the ball 53 times in this game. That is un-UMS like. But in old school UMS fashion, their kicker was 4 for 4 on field goals and 2 for 2 on extra points, Kingston Pham. So they definitely kept it, tried to keep it a field goal, not get up and down the field with this team. But also threw the ball 53. You know what I mean? It was just kind of a weird combination of old UMS and this new Sam Williams UMS.
I think it's because of how fast they play.
Right.
Because this offense, the tempo, it is such a high tempo offense. Like Hal even said Friday night that he would, shoot a highlight, go to write a note about like the highlight, and he'd have to get his camera up ready to do the next play because they're playing so quickly.
Sure.
And that's one thing that high school defenses are really going to have to adjust to when you're going up against a team like UMS, right? And Viger, they held on and ran away with this one. So, yeah, that's why they came out on top in this one, 39-26. But a really, really good game.
Yeah, and, I mean, look, if you're UMS, you're looking at this as this is the number one team in the state in 5A. Mm-hmm. You played them about as tough as you could play them. And, last season, these teams met in the regular season and then again in the playoffs. And their matchup in the playoffs was a lot closer. Now, Viger ended up winning that, but this is a team you can absolutely see down the road if you're UMS or if you're Viger. So to get this matchup and to get this win, that's just something to keep in mind once you get to the playoffs, because I think UMS will be there, and I think they're going to be a tough team to play in the playoffs.
I agree. They're only going to get, both of these teams are only going to get better and better as the season goes on. So, it just comes from getting more reps, and practice makes perfect. And each game is practice for playoffs, so it's one of those things. They're both going to continue to improve as the year goes on.
Yeah, and depending on how the matchups shake out, same for Williams. If you're Williamson, Viger, or UMS, you're looking at each other and being like, we could absolutely see each other down the road in the playoffs again. So,
100%.
Definitely good for them. Another game that
I can't believe it.
So that's kind of where I wanted to go with this. You can't believe it, and yet
but you can.
I'm weirdly not shocked by this, and I'm kind of at the point now we're not. We're talking Saraland Spanish Fort.
Yes, let's go ahead. We're talking about Saraland Spanish
Saraland won this one 54-7. Probably
at the Hill.
At the Hill. Probably one of the worst losses of Chase Smith's time, I would think.
Shout out Coach Smith. I'm sorry.
At Spanish Fort.
Yeah.
I don't think Spanish Fort's making the playoffs.
I'm okay. Probably too early.
Probably
hot take. I think that I'm looking. For me, I was looking at Spanish Fort being one of the top teams in 6A, and I wasn't sure what Theodore was going to look like. I think that my opinion of those teams has kind of swapped.
Yeah.
I think that Theodore really has kind of come into their own, and Spanish Fort, on the other hand, is really struggling. I mean, big time. Which they've also, Spanish Fort is another team that I feel like had a lot of turnover during the offseason.
Oh, sure, yeah. And I mean, and good turnover, too, Sawyer Wilson and EJ King were maybe the best running back pair in 6A last year. You move your best receiver and kick and punt returner from last year to running back in Juju Bonner. You had a lot of moving pieces coming into the season with this team. The only thing you knew for certain was the defensive front would be really good, and you had Aiden Schamberger, who, we all know how good he is. But, man, I don't know. Even back in week one, that Fairhope game, there was something missing with that team that I can't quite put my finger on, but it did not look like a traditional Spanish Fort team. And
I need to go back. I feel like I need to go back and watch like a full game of film.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, we're only really getting the highlights.
Sure. Yeah.
In these games, I need to see like a full game. I need to see all the moving parts to kind of figure out what's not clicking, what's not working. Because clearly, this game was not working on offense or defense. So, I hate that.
Right.
Because I'm such. And I know we have to be objective. I know that. But I really am a big fan of Spanish Fort. I would love to see them in the postseason.
Yeah.
They've always been good to me.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of our player of the week, guys every season come out of Spanish Fort. I mean, they produce top talent every single year. I mean, you have a ton of guys that move on to play at the next level. It's not like they're lacking talent.
Oh, no. But this is the second game this season, at least that I can remember, with Saraland and Theodore, because I believe Ken Abel had a really big game against Spanish Fort. Was that when he was your player of the week?
I think so, yes. I mean, Ken Abel's pretty much been showing out for the past 3 weeks.
Absolutely. But, you look at this game, P.J. Brown, 9 carries for 132 yards. As a team, they ran for 8 yards a carry. That's where you would want that strong defensive front to kind of show up and not let teams run on you. Mm-hmm. But then, you look at it over the top. Jamison Roberts only threw the ball 12 times this game, completed 9 passes for over 250 yards. I mean, I see numbers like that, and it's like, was the defense even out there? You know, I mean, seriously, like, I don't.
Smith, what's up?
Yeah, I mean, but it's just that was that was a crazy score in that game. So
yeah, I think that definitely during this week, the Toros are going to be working on some things.
Sure.
I can't imagine that Chase Smith is happy with that one.
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't think so.
But you also got to think Saraland is one, if not the top team in 6A Region 1. And I was a little questionable at the beginning of the season because of how they played against Jackson, even without E.J. Crowell. But they have pretty much come back and completely proved me wrong. I mean, everyone that they've gone up against over the past couple of weeks, they've really just put a beat down on them. And then you do this to Spanish Fort on the road. Like, we talk about it every week. The Hill is one of the hardest places to play. I don't care who you are. And, I mean, Saraland just walked into that house and said, actually, I live here. I have the keys.
Yeah.
And they took care of business.
So real quick, just looking at Spanish Fort's schedule, their next 2 weeks, they're at Murphy Thursday night this week. So they'll win that game. Then they go at Daphne, non-region. But as far as like looking for just a win goes, I mean,
do you know who won the Daphne Spanish Fort game last year? Did Spanish Fort win that one?
I believe here, let me look at it here.
I'm about to say, you got your computer in front of you.
Yeah.
Get me some information here.
It was Spanish Fort won it 21-7.
Yeah, so like
this Daphne team though is much better than last year's, I think.
That's the thing. This Daphne team is far improved, and this Spanish Fort team not so much.
No.
So you've got to think, they get the win at Murphy next week. Daphne will be a toss-up. We'll have to see. Who do they play after Daphne?
Then they host Blunt. So you would hope that that's win. But then you close the year at Gulf Shores at McGill, host St. Paul's. And I guarantee you by the time you get to that at Gulf Shores game, Gulf Shores, St. Paul's, McGill, and Spanish Fort will probably all be in some sort of a race for the 3 and 4 spots.
We had that's the thing last season with all the teams you just mentioned. We had so much of the tiebreaker stuff going on.
Right.
And I could see that happening again this season.
But Spanish Fort's got to go on the road for 2 of those 3.
Yeah.
So, and probably the toughest one is St. Paul's, and they get them at home. So,
I don't know. The 6A, when you get into that little cluster of Gulf Shores, McGill, St. Paul's, Spanish Fort, Theodore, I just, you don't know.
I know.
You don't know. I mean, they're all, you put them up against any other team in any other region, I could say, yep, they're going to win.
Right.
But when you put them against each other, it really is, everyone says it, and I will say it again, it is the SEC down here.
Yeah.
Because each week you've got a matchup that anything could happen.
Yep, no doubt.
So, I really don't know what to make of Spanish Fort. I've got to see how. Obviously not this week because they're going to get that win over Murphy. No offense to Murphy, they're in a bit of a rebuild, trying to build.
Man, it's tough.
But this is the thing though, and this I feel like should be mentioned. It is very hard for a team like Murphy in the age of high school football that we are in with this transfer portal to compete and be competitive.
Yeah.
Because all your best players are transferring out.
Yeah.
You don't have any of your top talent. Kids that are right there should be going to Murphy. This is another thing I talked about last week. You've also got all these schools right there that could easily combine and be one high school.
Right.
And because they're all so split, I mean, they're all right there. That's a conversation.
Yes.
for another time. But no shade to Murphy. It's just like the odds are pretty much stacked against you.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
So definitely moving forward, we're going to have to kind of see how Spanish Fort's remainder of the season looks. And then Saraland, I mean, they're kind of just, I think their biggest competition will be when they face Theodore.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
That's going to be like the battle for the number 1 team in 6A. Well, I don't want to count St. Paul's out either, though.
Yeah, I was about to say, I mean, just doing a standings check here real quick. Saraland and Theodore are both 3-0 in region play. They're 1-2 right now in the standings. St. Paul's is 2-0. They're at Theodore this week, which we can get to in a second. And then Blunt at 1-1 and Gulf Shores at 1-1 are tied for 4. Spanish Fort McGill are 1-2, and then Baldwin County Murphy are 0-3.
Those towards the end, those at the bottom are going to change as the season goes on.
Yeah, I mean, McGill, Spanish Fort, Gulf Shores, they'll probably pass Blunt, I would think, at some point, and kind of separate themselves. But, I'm sitting here looking at Theodore's schedule. Host St. Paul's, host Fairhope, host Murphy, bye, host Gulf Shores. That's their next 4 weeks. They don't leave home. They get a bye week right there in the middle. Now they do now, and then they end at Saraland at Blunt. So I don't know. I mean, they get Gulf Shores and St. Paul's are going to be like important tiebreaker games, and they get them both at home. So
yeah,
I really like them kind of staying in that 2 spot.
Yeah.
But yeah, we don't have to nerd out over standings. But
I know.
It's getting
such dorks.
It's getting to the point in the season though where these standings are going to be super important, because we got a big enough sample size of games.
Especially with last season, how that tiebreaker thing went. Like, we really had to research the rules. Like, if this happens, then this, and if this happens, then this. And when we get into 6A with these specific teams, we get into that towards the end of the season. So it's only week 5, a lot of games, a lot of seasons still left to go.
For sure.
We're really not even, I mean, I guess we're kind of at the halfway mark because 11 weeks during the regular season.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe kind of halfway, but still a lot of games left to play.
Yeah.
Now, this is another matchup that I thought was interesting. This was a 7A, 4A matchup between Baker and Jackson. Now, the final in this one, Jackson actually won 28-14. Wow.
Yeah.
And last season, Baker got the win in this one. It was a close game, but Baker got the win. And for Jackson to compete against a really good Baker offense and to get this win, I mean, I know they're the reigning 4A state champion. We know that they have Landon Duckworth and E.J. Crowell and Chapman and all these different guys on offense. But, I mean, Baker is a really good 7A team. I mean, Tate Graham, we have to talk about Tate Graham.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, he had an awesome game. 253 yards, 60% completion. He threw a touchdown. What, to me, the most interesting thing about this game was the fact that Landon only threw the ball 13 times. I mean, like, they didn't even have to go to him that much or lean on him that much. E.J. Crowell, 18 carries, 179 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, I think he's Landon, and this is no slight at Landon. I mean, he's our reigning player of the year. EJ is like the engine of that team this year. It feels like they really they give the ball to him and let him go, and use Landon sparingly because of just how good he is. It's like pick your poison. Do you want future Alabama running back EJ Crowell beating you? Or do you want, blue chip quarterback Landon Duckworth beating you?
You've got the number 6 quarterback in the country in the class of 2026, committed to South Carolina, just got an offer from LSU pretty recently, I think within the last week or so. And then you've got E.J. Crowell, who's committed to Alabama. I think he's the number 3 running back in the country in the class of 2026. I mean, one of the top recruits in the state of Alabama. Both of these guys, you have these 2 guys on one team.
Yeah.
I mean, you put the ball in their hands and let them work.
And, I think this shows, too, also, Baker's defense was so good last year. And they lost, I think, their top 9 tacklers or something crazy like that. I think last year this score was 21-14.
Yes.
And so, it's just, it shows you that, it's really hard for a 7A team to get stops against this team. And, they're not as talented as they were last year, but it's still a pretty good defense. You know what I mean? And this offense has been really, really good all season. I mean, they put up 41, I think, on Theodore in week 1, something like that.
Baker? Yeah.
Yeah, Baker.
Yeah.
And, to hold them to 14 as a 4A school, that's,
I mean, no, that's another thing. Baker is a very, very good team. They went up against a very difficult team in 4A, the reigning 4A state champion with a lot of talent.
Yeah.
So, this game, I don't think you can take anything away from Baker and what they're going to do throughout the remainder of the season in region play and whatnot. I think to go against this Jackson team and to only hold them to 28, I mean, I'm not mad about that.
No,
I'm really
no.
So, yeah, I just think that I think it was a good test for both teams. We know Eric Scott is in his first year as the head coach. He's been the defensive coordinator.
Right.
And I can imagine, like, in his mind, he's like, no, we should have won this game. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
of
Because he's a
course.
defensive-minded guy, and, like, to be a head coach with a defensive mind with a team that had a ton of turnover on defense,
Right.
and your offense is your strength this year.
So Emily just hit her mic if you hear an audio pop.
Sorry about that, guys. My hands get a little crazy
Yeah.
when I'm talking about ball. But so yeah, I think that no, this will not be an issue. This will kind of be a blip for Baker. They're going to keep rolling on, and then Jackson, of course, they've got a huge matchup looking ahead to this week.
Yeah, no doubt. We can go ahead and jump into next week. I just want to give 2 shout-outs to a couple, 3A and lower games. Leroy beat Sweetwater pretty handily. Let me pull that score up.
Leroy's probably going to be one of the top teams in Region 1A.
Oh, yeah.
And, I mean, Milry will be 2 for sure, and Sweetwater will be. Those will kind of be, like, the top 3 that I'm thinking. But
Right.
that was a really big win for Leroy to get against Sweetwater because they're also one of the top teams in
Yeah,
1A.
I mean, they beat them 40-13. Sweetwater has lost to Milry and Leroy in back-to-back weeks, meaning this is basically going to come down to the Milry versus Leroy game for this region. And Leroy has just looked so impressive this year against everybody they've played. I think
good.
I think this is theirs to lose. They haven't scored less than 40 points, and that's against competition that's bigger than them in some cases, like Thomasville and Clark County. So shout out to the Bears. That was a good win. And then T.R. Miller takes care of Flomaton 27-10. T.R. Miller's 4-0 now. Flomaton's 3-1. It was kind of the first big win between these 3A teams in Region 1 that are competing for the playoffs. T.R. Miller, Flomaton, Bayside, and Cottage Hill. So, T.R. Miller kind of took the first big swing in that region. So just wanted to shout out the Tigers. Right? That's T.R. Miller?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. The Hurricanes and the Tigers.
Yeah, I
yes.
was drawing a blank there for a second. But anyway, let's go ahead and go ahead to week 5. Emily, what you want to start with?
Well, I think we need to go ahead and start off with our Big Friday kickoff location because we just talked so much about Jackson. Jackson's coming down to take on Mobile Christian. We're actually going to be a little bit closer to home this week. But we always have a good time when we go out to Mobile Christian. We didn't go out there this past season, but the season before we did, and just kind of had a great turnout out there. We're going back. I mean, when you're welcoming a team like Jackson to town, I mean, we've just talked about it. That Jackson is the top team in 4A Region 1.
Right.
And Mobile Christian this is only their second season in 4A. They were in 3A before realignment. They went 15-0 in 2023, won a state title. That was Ronnie Cottrell's last season as the head coach there.
Right.
You are a dominant team in 3A, and then you move up to 4A and you go 3-7.
3-7.
And you've got a new head coach, the defensive coordinator, Charles Lawson. And that's nothing against Mobile Christian or Charles Lawson or anything like that. It's just like when you make a jump like that and you're going up against teams like Jackson, St. Michael,
Yep.
Orange Beach, like you're going up against a very different caliber, the different level of competition. There's going to be growing pains. There's going to be an adjustment, and I think that's something that they experienced last season. But even though they went 3-7, they still made it to the postseason. They were the number 4 team going into the playoffs. I mean, they played against Tallahassee, and I think that
I think it was 21-14 maybe, or 21.
it was. They literally lost by a touchdown.
Yeah.
So I mean that just goes to show you like I feel like we always talk so much about 6A and the talent that they have and it being the SEC. I kind of think the same could kind of start to be said about 4A down here.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to Jackson and St. Michael.
Right.
And I don't want to count out W.S. Neal, and I kind of thought Orange Beach would be a little different this season, but they've kind of dropped off a little bit. But
yeah.
So Mobile Christian, they're undefeated coming into this one 4-0. They are going to have their hands full with Jackson. Though.
We
talked about it.
And one thing that I don't think we talked about earlier because I don't think any of us thought to check this, they are officially in the top 10 as the 10th ranked team in 4A this week.
Mobile Christian.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I saw that. I saw that earlier. I'm glad that you mentioned that.
Yeah, this will be a top 10 game. Mobile Christian, we've belabored Jackson. I mean, you know what to expect from Jackson. We saw we just talked about all of it. We've seen it for the last season and a half at this point. You kind of mentioned all the good points about Mobile Christian. I don't think there's a ton else to say about them. They've put up a lot of points this year. I mean, they're averaging 41 a game, only giving up 14, just under 15 a game. But yeah, I mean, they're just going to have their hands full. And like you said, defensive-minded coach, bring back some pretty important guys, Jason Todd, who we're going to be talking to this week, awesome running back. He was an all-state safety last year. But yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll learn a lot about Mobile Christian this week and see how close they can keep this one with Jackson, or if they can possibly win it, But yeah, I don't.
It's really, really hard to go. It doesn't matter who you are. It's really hard to go up against this Jackson team.
I mean, we just watched them beat a 7A team, so I don't even know how I can
honestly
realistically talk about this game.
In my opinion, the hope for Mobile Christian is that they keep it close.
Yeah.
I mean, if they upset Jackson, I will be the first to say, holy moly. Okay.
Yeah.
Mobile Christian, they're in this thing. But I think it's really hard to go against a team like Jackson and expect to come out with a win.
Yeah.
Unless you're a team like Saraland. And
right.
even then, that game was 16-7 without an
with no EJ
Crowell.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is going to, and I can't even say that this is going to be one of Jackson's biggest tests. It's not.
Right.
Jackson has been tested from the time they started their season, last week against Baker. I mean, Jackson has already gone through some difficult competition on their schedule, and to me, for them, the road only gets easier from here for them, besides maybe going up against St. Michael.
Yeah, that's
going to be their toughest test throughout the rest of their season.
And even then, I mean, those games weren't close last year. You know what I mean?
Yes, but I do think that St. Michael's offense is a little more settled in. They're upperclassmen now. I think you could see a different result. I'm not saying that St. Michael they do have the talent to win it. I think that they do, but do I think that they will? Probably not.
Yeah.
But I do think they have the ability to keep it close.
Sure.
I think that their offenses can go toe-to-toe.
Right.
I feel bad for their defenses.
Yes.
I'll just put it that way.
No doubt.
So, yeah, that's where we're going for Big Friday Kickoff. The band is going to join us, the cheerleaders, the color guard. We're going to have head coach Charles Lawson sit down with us at 5 o'clock. We're going to have an interview with 2 players at 4:30. It's always a good time when we go out there. I enjoy it every time that we do. We might actually get to sit down, hopefully. Maybe not sit down, but go up to the press box.
Yeah.
And hang out with some guys that you've been really big on about us hanging out with all week.
They do an awesome podcast. Or not podcast, I'm sorry. Play-by-play of every Mobile Christian game, and we're hoping that we can kind of do something fun with them out there. So that'll be cool.
We hope so. That's not set in stone yet, but something we potentially hope to do in that matchup for sure, to pregame and get ready for that one. So that's a very important one to keep on y'all's radar. I also, before we move on, I want to talk about Coach Flo at Jackson, because we talk so much about the players. I just want to shout out to him because he's been there since 2019. He's 59-20 since he's been there. They've been region champions for the last 2 seasons. And, I mean, last year when these two teams met, Mobile Christian and Jackson won 49-7. So we give so much credit to all these players, but we got to give credit to Coach Flo and how he puts these guys in the right places and gives them the right plays to be successful. So I definitely want to shout out to him. Now, our game of the week is a 3A matchup between Bayside Academy and Flomaton. I think that this is going to be a very important 3A matchup. This is going to kind of dictate some playoff seeding early on, I kind of think. Bayside's 3-1 coming into this one. They're coming off a 60-0 win over Monroe County.
Yeah, crazy.
That is wild. Flomaton also 3-1. They're coming off that loss to TR Miller. 27-10 was our final in that one. When these two teams met last season, Bayside won 14-0, so it was close, only a 2-score game. So, yeah, this one is potentially going to be a really, really good one. Hurricanes are under first-year head coach Jace Gandy. He was the defensive coordinator at Spanish Fort. Taking over a team that went 6-4 last season. The Hurricanes didn't make the playoffs, but this year they've looked pretty good so far. And then on the flip side, we've got Admirals head coach Barrett Trotter. He's in year 3 now, a former Auburn quarterback. He's got Bo Miller at QB. This is his second season starting at quarterback, and he led Bayside to a third-round playoff appearance last season. And out of all the times these two teams have met, Bayside is 9-4 all time against Flomaton. So
yeah, and I think sophomore Davis Barnett's taken that quarterback job from Bo Miller. So I think, and that's kind of helped open them up a little bit. He's thrown for over 800 yards already, 12 touchdowns. Yeah, this will be interesting because Flomaton needs a bounce back game. Obviously, they would like to beat one of these top teams in their region just to sort of give themselves a little bit of a tiebreaker leverage. When it gets down to the end of the season. But this Bayside team, I mean they've really been able to throw the ball, which was different from them last year. I mean they were so run heavy because they had no passing options. And, this year, I mean, Walker Collins, the Spanish Fort transfer receiver, he's got 332 yards, 4 touchdowns already. And like I mentioned, Barnett, the sophomore who kind of took over for Bo Miller this season. This will be interesting because Flomaton's defense is good. And, I will just be curious to see if Bayside's able to throw on them in the way that they've been able to do on everyone else. Because Flomaton, they like to run the ball. They've got already on the year, 751 rushing yards. They're averaging 5 yards a carry, 12 touchdowns on the ground, So that is definitely their bread and butter is to run the ball. They got 3 players over 200 yards rushing already. So it's going to be a battle of styles. This Flomaton team plays a lot like Bayside did last year. Mm-hmm. And so, it's going to be either the Flomaton ground game or the Bayside passing game, in this one. So it'll be interesting to see for sure.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to that one. That is exactly why it's our game of the week. A very important 3A matchup. Going to kind of see who's going to be sitting where in 3A Region 1. Dacian Smith's going to go up there and bring you all the highlights in that one. He'll have a game preview at 5 on Friday during a Big Friday kickoff. So definitely tune in to get all the nitty-gritty details. Dacian, I think, is going to have some sound from both head coaches this week.
Cool.
So definitely looking forward to that on Friday. So now let's move. We're going back talking about 6A.
I know.
We can't help ourselves.
Yeah.
St. Paul's at Theodore. And I kind of said this earlier. This is an interesting matchup because Theodore has really turned out to be what we thought they would be before the season started. They've really come into their own. They dropped their season opener to Baker, but after that, they've just kind of been firing on all cylinders. They're 4-1. They're coming off a 41-14 win over Baldwin County. They've beaten Spanish Fort. They've beaten McGill-Tulin. And now Steve Mask has to go up against his former team.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's a really interesting storyline in this one. St. Paul's here in week 5, going up against his former team. I mean, while he was there, did he win 3 state titles? Or was it 4?
Oh, good question.
I think that it's 3. I think that it's 3. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, when Steve Mask was at St. Paul's was pretty much the team to beat.
Absolutely.
They were kind of like what we look at Saraland is right now. I think his first year there was in 2012, and then he was there until 2021, and then his defensive coordinator, head coach now, Ham Barnett, took over.
Steve won 4 while he was there.
4, okay. Sorry, Steve. I don't want to slight you one. 4 state titles. That's incredible.
Yeah.
From 2012 to 2021. So yeah, Ham Barnett been with the program been the head coach of the program since 2022. He's 26-13 since he's been the head coach. St. Paul's is 3-0 coming into this one, coming off a 50-6 win over Murphy. And this will be the Saints' biggest test since UMS week 1, and they only won in that one 29-28 in overtime. So this is going to be a clash of two very good teams in 6A. Two teams that we could, Saraland's probably going to be that number 1 team in 6A. St. Paul's or Theodore could be that number 2.
Yeah.
So I think this is going to be a really interesting matchup. I'm actually going to leave Mobile Christian and get over to Theodore to shoot highlights of this game.
Yeah.
Because this is one we just can't miss.
Yeah, this is going to be, everything that we talked about when it came to the 6A standings, this is where we think Theodore is going to pull away and secure that second spot, or at least really have a firm grasp on it,
Yeah.
And look, we got some star power in this game. Ken Abel, JJ Bush, Tank Jones on the other side of the ball. We got some fun players in this game. So
these are all guys that are going to be moving on. You got Tank going to Oregon. JJ's going to Arkansas.
Yep.
I don't know where Kendrick Abel is. I know he's had a lot of he's
Yeah.
getting some offers,
Sure.
but I don't know where I could see him being. He's an SEC level
Absolutely.
talent,
Yeah.
in my opinion. So, yeah, there's just big name guys all over the field
Absolutely.
in this matchup. So, I'm excited to see that.
Yeah, no doubt.
Do we want to move on, or do we want to stay with this, or do we want to move on to Daphne Baker?
I think we've talked enough about 6A. I think, there's everything we mentioned about these teams earlier, kind of applies here. I think, and then a little bit with Daphne Baker too. Like I guess we can go ahead and move on to Daphne Baker. We talked about this when MGM and Daphne played, that it was going to come down to these 3 teams and how they played against each other. And MGM obviously got that win over Daphne. This is kind
closer than what we kind of thought it was going to be.
Closer than what we thought,
was
for
it
sure.
31-21?
30
or 41-31?
41-31. Yeah. This is the next sort of domino and sort of the pecking order of these 3 teams in 7A, Daphne and Baker. Daphne lost last season, 27-21. They're coming in 3-1 this year. I think they look a lot better than they did last year. They kind of seem like they're firing on all cylinders. Baker's already 2-0 in region play, which is important. Coming in 3-1, just lost to Jackson. And yeah, I think these 2 quarterbacks, Tate Graham and Christian Seeger, I think this is going to be. It's going to be a fun matchup. These 2 have kind of been lighting it up all season. So I think there's going to be a lot of points in this game, especially with the Baker defense not being what it typically is, and Daphne's defense
led by head coach Kenny King, who's a defensive guy. If there's anything he's going to try and have ready, he's going to try and have that defense ready go up against a red-hot Baker offense.
But it does seem like teams have been able to put up some points on them this year, especially MGM, who's obviously very good. But yeah, I think this quarterback matchup, I think that's gonna be the thing to watch. Like these guys are killing it right now.
Yeah. Now all time, Baker is 3-10. Daphne's won 10, and Baker's only won 3 of these matchups. So we know that Daphne historically is a very strong program, but Baker's really kind of been on the rise. For the last couple of seasons. I think this is going to be a really good one out in West Mobile. Baker's always a fun place to play. Those kids really show out. Their fans really show out. I think this is going to be a really good matchup. Daphne also travels well.
Yeah.
So, I just think that this is going to be a really good one. Hustlin' House Sherrick's going to be out there. This is technically our Baldwin County game because Daphne is the Baldwin County team. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting, especially because Baker's coming off that loss to Jackson. How do you kind of bounce back from a loss like that coming into this one? I can't remember who exactly Daphne played last week.
I believe it was Foley. I think they beat him pretty bad.
Okay.
Yeah. But, Tate Graham, he's the top passer in 7A. Seeger's 9th. So, these are 2 very, very good quarterbacks that are playing at a pretty high level for their teams right now. So that'll be, I think, to me, that's the most fun thing to watch.
Yeah.
In this one.
I think this week, more than any other week, we've had a really hard time trying to pick where we go for Big Friday Kickoff, who's going to be game of the week, and who's going to be Hal's game.
Right.
Because you flip any of these games around any way, and it still would have fit, because they're all, I feel like these really are like the biggest games of the week. we're kind of in the full swing of region play. I think next week, week 6, a lot of it's non-region play, and a lot of teams are going to be on a bye. So this week's a big week. You really want to get a region win this week before you go into non-region play, and then a lot of teams also being on a bye. Like, this is the midway point.
Yep.
You really got to come in ready to go, because this kind of dictates what seeding for the postseason.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, a lot of good stuff going on in high school. You want to talk a little bit about Clark County and Blackshear?
Let me get my small school shout outs here real quick. Clark County and Blackshear play this week. These were the top 2 teams in 2A Region 1 last year. Mm-hmm. Clark County's 10-0 all time in this matchup by a margin of 414-43.
Holy
which
guacamole.
Is just kind of a crazy stat. And this Clark County team, we've talked about them a bunch, doing Big Friday Kickoff out there and all that stuff. They're not quite what they have been in the past.
A lot of turnover.
New
head coach.
Yep. 2-2 right now. 2-2 on the season right now. I think Blackshear's going to finally get one against Clark County this week. Their last 5 since 2020, it's been 187-24, 3 shutouts for Clark County against Blackshear. Mm-hmm. Blackshear's given up 13 points all season, scored 102. They brought a lot of players back from last year's team that made it to the playoffs and was pretty successful. So, they're coming off a bye. They get Clark County at home. I think I think the Bulldogs pull this one out this week and get their first win against Clark County all time as a school. So
wait, is JU Blackshear, they're the Bulldogs too?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Clark County's also the Bulldogs.
Right. So you got Bulldog on
Bulldogs
Bulldog
versus
crime.
Bulldog.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh man. That's going to be a good one. Also, we need to talk about Williamson BC Rain. We talked a little bit about it earlier.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, BC Rain, this is going to be, I think this is their shot for us to see if they're going to be the 4 seed in 5A. What are you laughing at?
I'm sorry. Nothing. Keep going. I'm so sorry. I've got the giggle. Just ignore me. Let it be.
Anyway,
let it be.
We're trying to see if the BC Rain Raiders can be the 4 seed in 5A Region 1.
The Red Raiders.
The Red Raiders, right.
They're not just any Raiders.
Yeah, they're red. And so that's something that we're going to be watching this week against the Williamson Lions, who look really good at football right now. So
yeah, they are. I'm so sorry.
Okay, so anyway.
Okay, I think I've got it out.
There we go.
I've got it
That's
out.
our preview for the week.
Oh, I'm sorry. I made it as long as I could.
You did it. You're doing a great job.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So are you.
Thank you.
Okay. Is that everything you wanted to say about Williamson?
I think that's all I've got about Williamson and BC Rain.
Okay.
Williamson's won 5 of the last 6. That's the only other thing I'll say.
Okay. Yeah, that's going to be a good. I mean, we talked a little bit about it earlier. Those are 2 teams that we could potentially. Well, Williamson could see for sure going to the postseason. BC Rain, it could be that number 4 team.
Right. They could. That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, did you just say all that?
I did. Yeah.
I'm so sorry. The giggles overtook.
No, you're fine.
I lost control.
Did you want to touch quickly on college football? I think we're running up on a time crunch here.
Yes, let's just briefly kind of chat about it. First of all, I just want to say, and I know there's not a lot of Ole Miss fans around here, but Ole Miss got a win over Arkansas, a close win. I was worried. Defense stepped up in the end, and as they say, defense wins championships, and that's what happened with us against Arkansas because my blood pressure was so through the roof in that matchup, Robert. You know what it's like to be an Ole Miss fan. You go through similar things being a Kentucky fan. It's just...
It's brutal. It's not fun. College football season is like not fun sometimes.
No, it's not. So I just want to say that hotty toddy. Shout out to Ole Miss for getting that win. Now for the more relevant games, because we know everyone down here is either an Alabama or an Auburn or a South Alabama fan. Alabama, they've got an open week this week, but they just got that 38-14 win over Wisconsin. I think they needed that really badly. I mean, obviously the week before they played ULM, and that's a kind of a giveaway win, but the week before that, Alabama's not looking like the typical Alabama. I think Kalen DeBoer is probably on the hot seat.
Yeah, it's looking tough.
Looking tough out there in T-Town. So I won't get too much into that because obviously Alabama is going into a bye week. Auburn opens SEC play in Norman against Oklahoma. Jackson Arnold transferring from Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So I can imagine that there's going to be some heightened emotions going into this one. I've heard some other people talk about this. I think there will be more so some heightened emotions for Jackson Arnold. And this is, I heard Hugh Freeze talk about this in his post-game presser after the game because, me and Dacian went up there because Auburn played South Alabama. And in the post-game press conference, someone asked, going into this, what are you going to be feeling? Asked Jackson Arnold and Coach Freeze. And Coach Freeze was like, oh, I'm not going to be worried about anything. I'm going to stay off social media. I'm blah, 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 blah. And I was like, you? Hugh Freeze? Staying off social media?
Interesting.
That's new. That's a new development.
Right.
But Jackson Arnold, he said that he's going to be locked in, cool, calm, collected. He's really not thinking too much about it. So I think that could just be post-game coach-player speak.
Yeah.
There's going to be emotions involved. So I think that's going to be an interesting matchup this week. We'll have to see if those emotions come to the surface. But Oklahoma looks really, really good so far this season.
No doubt.
Auburn, they're all right.
Yeah.
Haven't really had a tough competition. South Alabama hung in there with them. And that's what I'll say about South Alabama. They really did give Auburn everything they could handle. Auburn could not get off the field on third downs. The Jags run game. Overall, it was a really, really good matchup. I think South Alabama should be proud of their performance in that one. But the road doesn't get any easier from here. They're going to be taking on Coastal Carolina this week to open up Sun Belt play.
Right.
So Auburn and South Alabama both getting into the games that really matter.
Yeah,
We're getting
no
into
doubt.
conference play now.
Yep.
This is what dictates the postseason more than anything else. So that's all I'll say about that. Who does Kentucky play this week?
We're on a bye.
Oh, you need it, don't you?
Yeah, we do. We had Eastern Michigan last week, and it was closer than it needed to be for a large portion of it.
Oh, no.
But our sophomore star quarterback, blue chip recruit, Cutter Boley, took over for seventh year Zach Calzada, and he looked awesome.
Seventh year?
Yeah, he looked absolutely awesome, so I think we're rolling with the future from here on out.
Say his name again?
Cutter Boley.
What a name. Could you imagine if your mama named you Cutter?
No, well, that's how we say it, Cutter. Hey, Cutter.
Is that what I sound like?
No, that's how we say it, though.
Okay.
That is what you sound like, but yeah, that's how we say it.
Thank you. I appreciate it so much. Cornbread and butter and biscuits over here.
Yeah, but yeah, he's just a good old boy from the mountains of Kentucky, and he was throwing it downfield all over the place.
Kentucky has mountains?
Yeah, that's Appalachia. Come on now.
I haven't been to Kentucky since I was like 6 or 7, so
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you. I guess I need to take a trip up to Kroger Field. I'd love to go back up there and see us, the Rebs beat y'all again.
We got a great deli section,
A great deli? Oh, Kroger. I was at Kroger Field. You're such a nerd.
I know.
Okay. Well,
All right, well, you want to get out of here?
Yeah. I think that we've chatted y'all's ears off enough. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Big Friday Kickoff podcast. I'm Emily Cochran. He's Robert Ristaneo, and we will see you guys with our Thursday games that are going to be kicking off tomorrow night.
Yep.
Murphy and I couldn't tell you.
Spanish Fort
Murphy,
and
Spanish Fort.
Satsuma Orange Beach.
Yep. 2 games coming your way tomorrow night, and then we'll have a full slate on Friday. We'll see y'all then.